All right, hi everybody. David Fogel back with you, CEO of the Symphonina Foundation, back with another Symphonina Foundation podcast, and I have the pleasure of being joined today by Grammy-nominee pianist Robert Thies. Robert, how are you?
Hi, I'm great. Thanks for having me.
You have a lot of things going on, and I saw in one of your posts recently that you were actually involved in the movie Disclosure Day, and I thought, wow, I want to talk to you about that and a bunch of other things. So let's start there. How did you get involved in the movie, and tell us all about it?
Uh, well, yes, I spend some of my life doing recording for film and TV, which is an interest I've had since being a teenager. And John Williams was, like many of us, a huge, huge influence and hero of mine.
Yep.
So to finally get the opportunity after many years to be in the same room with him and record music with him is fulfilling one of those dreams that I've had for such a long time. It actually started with an earlier film of his a couple years before called The Fablements, another Spielberg
Oh,
film.
yes. Yeah, I remember that.
And of the two films, I actually have more of a feature in The Fablements. So that was my first experience with him, which was just incredible because he wrote some solos that I got to play
Hmm.
for that. But again, being in the room for Disclosure Day, another huge film, and the LA Master Chorale was in the room, and it's incredible, the electricity in the room, because there's such a reverence for him that you don't see with many other composers that come through. And people sit a little more on the edge of their seats when they're working with John Williams.
I
So,
bet it's true. And I can tell from how you're saying it too, sometimes, and it happens, I think, too frequently when we meet our heroes or we get close to our heroes, we somehow the hero status comes down a little bit. And I don't know why that is, but it is a true thing in human nature, right? But I can tell from how you're carrying this conversation that that's not what happened for you, and I find that wonderful. So that's great to hear.
thank you. Yeah. Yeah, it's true. It's dangerous to meet your heroes. You realize they're mortals after all, and not
Yeah.
gods.
Yeah.
And everyone has their faults. But again, overall, it was just an amazing experience to be in
Yeah.
the
Do
room.
you think you'll have another opportunity? I don't know if I guess John Williams is making exceptions for making movies with Steven Spielberg. I don't know what else.
Exactly.
I don't know what else is being planned and for him and what he's able to do. But do you know of anything else that would be in the works?
I mean, I'd read some rumors that Spielberg already has another project in the works, and John has already agreed to score that.
Okay.
So I think it's amazing because I think it's keeping John busy and active and healthy
Yeah.
to be active. I think when we retire, we tend to that's when problems set in when when we say we're done.
Yes.
So I think Spielberg is keeping John well and alive for us.
We thank him for that as
Yeah.
well. All right. So when we go see the movie, what are we listening for when we're listening for you?
Well, I mean, I was playing both celesta and piano in the score.
Hmm.
Uh, but to be fair, I was one of a number of keyboardists on this session, so I'm not even certain what of my contributions made it into the final
Understood.
score. You never know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I went to see the film just because I love Spielberg's films, and of course I had a little more vested interest in this one
Yes.
because I played on the score. But aside from one moment in the score where I recognized the cue,
Yes. Right.
I was enjoying the film like anyone else in the room.
Of course, of course. I think I said to you when we met at the Grammy Museum a couple of years ago now that I played piano since I was 5. My dad got me started with his mom, who was a classically trained pianist, and I'm 62 now, so that's 57 years of piano. And I could practice 10 hours a day for 10 years, and I would never be as good as you are.
Oh,
How did you get to be so good?
well, thank you. It's practicing. I was curious to sort of estimate how many hours I've put
Yeah.
in front of the piano starting from the age of 5 myself. And I figured, okay, maybe from ages 5 to 9, it was 30 minutes at the piano. And then, in the next 4 or 5 years, it extended to an hour, hour and a half. And then by the age of 14, until now, it became 3 or more hours a day. So I've put in probably more than 45,000 hours at the instrument.
It's crazy, isn't it?
It is, and every instrumentalist has their own unique challenges. Every musician, every instrument has its challenges, but I think what a lot of folks forget about what it is to be a pianist, in that just the sheer number of notes that we need to process and voice, the different, many different voices that we have to do simultaneously. That's pretty unique to being a pianist.
Yeah.
And so when I review a piece I've already learned, I still will have to put in hours and hours and hours of preparation before that first rehearsal, even if it's chamber music. I often look at the amount of time I spend just before the first rehearsal with the ensemble, and it can be up to 40 hours of solo work just to get the program ready for that rehearsal. Yeah. Whereas I know a lot of my colleagues will learn the piece in the rehearsal, because in terms of what they might have to do by themselves, it doesn't take them as long to process that. But what they then do is they come to the rehearsal and learn the full score in rehearsal. So they want to rehearse more than I do.
Right, makes sense. And I guess that's partly due to a desire to be, I don't know, perfectionist sounds like a negative, but I guess being a perfectionist is fine. If you don't make mistakes, it's great. So
yeah, and I
learned your own standards, right?
Absolutely. And I learned early on I could never rest on my laurels. There's an expression which is so true, is that you're only as good as your last performance. And there have been occasions in my past where I would perform a piece that I had under my belt, or thought I did, because I learned it as a teenager. It's in the hard drive there.
Yeah.
And I might have a small memory lapse in a place that I've never had before. And that taught me immediately I cannot be overconfident, even with music I learned when I was younger. So I still go through that process with every piece, no matter how many times I played it before, of just going through that process to put it back to memory.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a lot of work, but it's a labor of love.
I appreciate that. Speaking of memorizing things, when you're performing, do you try to memorize everything ahead of time, or do you play with sheet music in front of you? What's your standard practice?
If it's chamber music, I play with a score.
Okay.
And if it's a concerto, I play from memory. Mm-hmm. The only gray zone is a solo recital. In general, I play from memory. That's what I was trained to do. Unless it's a newly composed piece, I generally play from memory. But to do so, again, requires so many more months of work than it would to play from score. Right. So that's a huge time investment that, quite honestly, I'm most of the time not compensated for that time.
Again, the labor of love continues. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I work for way under minimum wage if you add the number of hours of work that goes into any performance.
Right, and when you're recording, let's say with, I guess it was the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra for Mythologies II, which was Grammy nominated, and you earned your Grammy nomination there as well. Or, as I know, an upcoming piano concerto you're releasing this year with RPO as well. Do you go into that having everything memorized, or do you have the score in front because there might be alterations or something like that as you're playing?
Yeah, the score is in front of me in both cases. With Mythologies II, by the way, the composer of that is Danae Zanti-Vlase.
Yeah.
And in that case, the orchestration, the parts came in the day before. In some cases.
Okay.
So, and she wrote a version of that music for chamber ensemble, which the piano part is even more involved. So when we did the sort of the arrangement for orchestra, the piano part was altered slightly. So I was learning that very last minute, and so yeah, it made sense to have the score in front of me.
Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, it's certainly not an ego question of ego whether you play from memory or not, even though there's some strange expectation that pianists do that. It's really about how will you give the best performance. If it's with a score, then do it. If it's away from score, then do that.
Yeah, and speaking of deviating from a score, I remember also that part of the conversation we had at the Grammy Museum was your aspirations to be a jazz pianist, and I didn't know at the time whether you were half joking, quarter joking, entirely joking, or not joking at all. But I think the answer is not joking at all, right? I think that's one of
Not at
your,
all.
well,
Yeah.
yeah, one of your things, and I think you have some things in the works. We can talk about that too. But what is your experience with jazz and not having the score in front of you? Just here's your lead sheet. Go for it.
My first exposure to it was through my father, who was an amateur jazz musician. He never did for a living, but he played in big bands all his life. He was a
Uh-huh.
saxophonist, and
Nice.
so he was playing records in the house, and I got exposed that way. And then he introduced me to fake books, and I started learning the rudiments of comping and soloing and understanding how jazz worked. You know, basically taking a 32 bar form and then improvising over it. But to be quite honest, that sort of tradition of American jazz of playing over standard, while I can appreciate the artistry of those before me that blow solos over these changes, it from a classical musician point of view, which is what I primarily am anyway, I was not that taken by the composition. That, or I should say that the composition is what interests me the most. So I gravitated towards the European jazz tradition because a lot of those guys were classically trained, and their compositions are more through composed and show, have the textures and colors and qualities of, and the temperament. Their sound comes from more of a classical tradition in my mind.
Interesting. Okay.
So I was very drawn to like the ECM label, if I was to generalize.
Hmm.
There's so much music off that record label that took my interest and influenced me in my own writing. So yeah, to get back to your point, I did compose some of my own music in a jazz idiom for jazz piano quartet. So that I'm hoping to record in the next year. Uh, so yeah, it's very exciting for me because I love being able to write my own music and playing with friends and being challenged by their artistry. Surrounding myself with musicians that are better than me in that idiom.
I will greatly look forward, as I do to all of your work, I will greatly look forward to hearing that when it is ready. I know that later this year you're going to be releasing your piano concerto, which you've
Mhm.
recorded with the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra, probably submitting for Grammy consideration too. And can you tell us a little bit about the development there and what we should expect?
Yes, to clarify, it's not my piano concerto.
Oh, okay.
It was written. I wish I had those skills or
Okay.
time.
Yeah.
The piano concerto was written by a composer based in Des Moines, Iowa. His name is James Vigo Poulsen,
Okay.
and he heard me play Brahms' second piano concerto with the Des Moines Symphony about a decade ago, and approached me to record his work. And then years passed, and the pandemic happened. Anyway, it took a good 10 years for this to materialize.
Mm.
And it finally did. He found the funding, and I convinced him to consider Abbey Road and the Royal Philharmonic because I'd just been there the year prior
Right.
with Dunay's project. And so we did that, and we recorded it last summer, and it's coming out in 2 weeks. And I'm very excited by it because I've been approached by a number of composers to record music. And the first question I ask myself is, does this music speak to me? Do I understand it? Because if I don't, how do I help an audience to understand that music? So hearing this concerto, I immediately understood it on a musical level. It draws from the great classical traditions of all the composers I adore. He clearly loves the composers I do, Rachmaninoff,
Yeah.
Ravel.
Yeah.
So there's so much from the earlier tradition that's in this music, and it's exciting for me to be able to premiere a living composer's piece and feel as strongly about it as I do.
It's wonderful. How long is it in total? And how
I
many
think
movements, if we could?
it's a three movement work.
Okay.
The third movement is quite brief, sort of in the style of Ravel's piano concerto. His last movement is very brief. So I think the piece is around 23 minutes,
Okay.
24. It's
Uh-huh.
a little bit shorter than standard concerto, but just a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, three movements. The second movement is gorgeous. Again, I mentioned the composers Rachmaninoff and Ravel. James doesn't necessarily admit to those direct influences. I hear them
Yeah.
myself,
Uh-huh.
and to me, that's a compliment. It reminds me of the quote that Stravinsky or that made that good composers will borrow from others, but
Hmm.
great composers will steal.
Yes.
It's the ultimate flattery, I guess.
Well, we'll look forward to that. You said coming in 2 weeks.
Yes.
That'd be
Yeah.
great. Okay.
Yeah.
And as everybody knows at the Symphonina Foundation, we try to turn our podcast from interview to post within 1 to 2 days, so everything stays timely. So when you hear 1 to 2 weeks, if you're on our launch for this post for this podcast, you'll know it's actually 2 weeks. And mark your calendars. What date? The 24th, 23rd, somewhere around there.
Yeah, I think that's about right. I'm sorry I don't have the exact
That's
date,
okay.
but
We'll be
I can
looking.
look it up.
We'll be
But
looking.
yes,
We'll be looking for it. I want to ask you something else about New Age music because you've contributed in those genres as well, and
sure.
I want to pay you a compliment, which I think I already have paid you in previous years, but New Age encompasses a wide variety of different styles of composition, and it can be anything from, I would say, music that you would enjoy a massage to music that you could drift off and even go to sleep to, and that might be a compliment to that music. It's not not anything else. But there's others where it's just at the edge of being overtly melodic, which would maybe get it out of being New Age and into contemporary instrumental or something else that we might disagree about or agree about, or it doesn't really matter. But I think you know what I'm trying to say. It's just at
Sure.
the edge of bringing you along and keeping you along and not letting you meditate off and not letting you drift off. And you do that brilliantly,
Mm,
brilliantly.
thank you.
And I mean, I really, really, and it's hard, so hard to compose like that. I don't know how you do it, really. How do you do it? How do you do it?
Well, thank you. So yeah, I'm working on my sixth album for the series Blue Landscapes that my friend Damian Krajicic, a flutist, and we just started getting together and improvising. And we decided after a while, maybe we should start recording some of this. And so we did. And now we're working on a sixth album together. And yeah, I mean, the New Age category is really difficult to describe. It means something different for
It
everybody.
is. It's
It
really
also,
very
it,
difficult. Yeah.
it could also include electronic ambient music,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
which I listen to a lot of, but I don't compose that music. I feel like folks like Steve Roach and so many of them, Robert Rich. There's so many talented folks doing that. I'm not sure if I have much more to contribute there. Blue Landscapes is very much an acoustic experience. In fact, all the sounds one hears on the albums come from two instruments, piano and flute. There are no computer
Okay.
textures whatsoever. And it's hard to describe the music. I think, again, if we had to generalize and throw it in a label, I was also very influenced by Windham Hill label, Will Ackerman's label.
Hmm.
And if you're familiar with that, there's such an array of artists, again, classically trained, some are jazz trained. And what drew me were not only the aesthetic, meditative qualities of a lot of the music, including Will's music, but the great composing and playing. So, how do I describe Blue Landscapes? I mean, it's inspired by nature, and it's sort of a contemporary chamber music, which living at the intersection of classical, ambient, and my love for film music too, probably
Yeah.
seeps into that. And again, my classical background, I'm sure plays a
It's all
role.
like at the center of a Venn diagram where all those things have to interact almost perfectly, and they do.
Right. And it's very possible that this music shouldn't be in the New Age category. I don't know. I think we've submitted in that category because it's where the kind of music I wanted New Age to be.
Yeah.
Uh, but that's personal to me. But I think other people might look at it and say, it's not really New Age. It's more this or that. And, I know Will Ackerman was, again, to mention his name, he was completely upset when he heard that his label was thrown into that with that label. He hated it.
Hmm.
So it's interesting that he's still submitting albums within the New Age category because you wonder what other category it would fit in best. But yeah, it's improvisatory music. I love, because I spend most of my days poring over scores and figuring out why did Beethoven write this crescendo here, et cetera, et cetera. Sometimes I like to put the scores away, put the lid down, the music rack down, and just get reacquainted with the piano and remember why I love that instrument so much. So improvisation has been so important to me over the years.
Yeah, well, whatever category it's in, it's great. Keep doing it.
Thank you so much.
Hey, I want to ask you one other thing before we go. I know you have taught. When we met before, you were just going to go, I think, substitute or take over a course at Cal State Long Beach in music, but I forget what it was specifically. But I just want to ask if you're actively teaching piano or anything else currently.
I love teaching. I think it's one of the most noble of professions, and I love working with advanced students. Yes, I was teaching at Cal State Long Beach for the piano majors for a semester while a friend of mine was on sabbatical, and that was a wonderful experience for me. So I do master classes, and when I'm approached to teach, I will, but I don't pursue it very aggressively because performing and recording are still my most important and beloved activities. So I want to keep playing and keep recording while my body holds up.
That sounds good. Well, if people do want to get in touch with you for that engagement, what's the best way to do that? How should they get in touch with you?
I just released a new website, and the URL is robertthiespianist.com.
Okay.
So people can find me that way.
All right, and you've got a contact form?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, There we go. robertthiespianist.com. Look for the contact form. Robert, it's been a pleasure. It's always a pleasure. It's good to see you again, even if only on Zoom. And we'll be looking forward to your releases coming up this year, next year. And we'll listen to some more of your great playing on the way out here. And if there's anything that we can do at the Symphonina Foundation to be of help to you, just let us know.
Thank you so much, David. Appreciate it.